and welcome back to this episode on the Business Real Talk. What we want to talk about today is one of the most important factors to creating sustainable growth on how you can use an inbound content marketing strategy to generate sales leads. Every single day over the last 11 years, I've spoken to businesses all across the world, and their biggest complaints are the same. Whether they're brand new businesses or multi-million-dollar businesses scaling to the next level, they have the same things in common. They're struggling with either trying to keep up with their marketing in their business, or number two, they're struggling with knowing how to bring in more high-quality leads that convert into clients with their marketing. Now, the problem is that attention has become the new online currency. Every business is fighting for it, and consumers only have less of it. And as a business owner, it's starting to feel like you're spending all of your hard-earned time and money and energy on marketing so that you can try and stay top of mind and only trying to win more attention, which means that it's requiring more of you in order to create the same results. Now, you're studying all the things, trying to find hacks that make you go viral, fighting for the algorithm to work in your favor so that you can increase your reach. And what used to work just doesn't seem to be working anymore. Now, this is all because market saturation has shifted drastically. And we see this in a lot of times the aftermath of what is happening as a result of this. People like you hitting their highest revenue months, feeling like you're on top of the world, only to go totally dark or have a negative cash flow 2 months later because you're unable to keep up with the demand of marketing and gaining attention. Or maybe you have a super successful launch, the webinar that works, the VSL, the ad campaigns, and suddenly it feels like it stopped working, leaving you feeling like you're scratching your head and restarting and chasing trends only to continue the momentum you've built in your business. But listen, your business can't sustain the chase, and you can't keep up with every single marketing trend coming out there, figuring out hot music and dances and platforms like some sort of excited puppy. You need a sustainable and leveraged growth strategy that puts you in the driver's seat and has clients seeking you out as the authority that they're thankful to find. And it starts with shifting how you operate and the measurement of your marketing around fighting for attention, and shifting that to leveraging an inbound strategy that uses strategic content marketing to create leads and sales that focuses on your audience taking action, not simply being the influencer of fighting for attention. Real talk, this is totally going to flip the script on all those dusty old marketing tactics that have been built years ago in a pre-digital age. And it's going to focus on the fundamental, scalable, and leveraged growth strategies that take businesses to multi-million and multi-billion-dollar status without fighting for attention. Which means that you being here right now puts you in the know and as an innovator. You're going to be able to learn today how to turn lurkers and parked leads that weren't buying into an inbox filled with messages asking about your highest price program because you triggered movement that clicks and just makes you look like the star of the show. And it's going to help you be able to finally become discerning about who you work with, because you have a strategy that allows your content to resonate with your audience and see you as the gift that keeps on giving. And podcasts, summits, corporations that are now seeking you out to come share what you do because it just makes sense. And they see you as the leader in the industry that's totally changing the game. Now, who am I to be telling you this? If you're new here, my name is Naz. I am a business growth strategist and 18-year marketing expert, and I help expert business owners turn their message into a movement that has leads that sell themselves using the Netflix effect. Now, let's get into it. Let's talk about what it actually takes to create that inbound content marketing demand so that you can generate sales leads right now. Now, in order to understand how this works, you need to understand the formula behind what creates attention versus the formula we need to be able to do versus the formula we need to be able to leverage in order to gain action. Now, attention-based marketing is rooted in entertainment. We're living in an entertainment age where instant gratification and getting a quick laugh and finding things that make us feel good in the moment are really hot. Now, what you need to understand is a lot of what you're being taught right now in terms of how to grow is coming from the wrong place. You're learning from influencers and gurus and content creators who are being paid based on the amount of attention they can create. What you need to be able to understand is that the formula for attention looks a little something like this. You're creating engagement. So what you want to be able to do that is create entertaining content, create intrigue, and really be able to create short bursts of attention. Now, when we flip the script and look at it from a standpoint of wanting to create action, because as a business owner, the goal of our content isn't just to create short bursts of attention, it's being able to create and take that attention and turn it into actual conversions and clients signing on the dotted line. So the first step in being able to leverage a formula that creates action is what I call mirrored decision making. What you need to be able to understand is that this is the best season ever when it comes to marketing and how to support people in actually making quick decisions, because we're no longer in that pre-internet stage. People are more capable than ever in making decisions, which means as a marketer, as a business owner, you now get to kind of take a back seat to the process. You no longer have to handhold every single step of the process. How we market to this is going to look different, because the truth of the matter is the way people make decisions hasn't changed. It's psychological. It's the same process that we've used for thousands and thousands of years. The difference is how we help people achieve those decision-making processes has changed, because how they gather information and therefore make decisions has drastically shifted. So knowing that we're optimizing for action and therefore decision-making, we need to be able to understand how to change the intent of how people make decisions. So let's get into it. What you need to understand is that the good news is most of the people out there are able to do much of the heavy lifting on their own without you needing to do the hand-holding. Stats show that the typical B2B buyer is actually going through 57% of the purchase process before they reach out to a sales team. Simply put, what that means to you is that 57% of the decision-making process is actually happening without you being present, meaning that they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting ahead of time without you. It also means that this is your time to shine, but your messaging has to be poignant and on point in order to make people move into decision-making status so that they can sell themselves. Otherwise, they're going to move on to the next best thing, because again, attention spans are short and people are able to readily find the information they need. But those dusty old marketing strategies that have been used for decades and generations have all been taught based on the same singular concept. It's this idea that in order to get people to buy, we have to move them through the fundamental process of how we move people from not being aware of a problem all the way to being aware and being ready to purchase. Now, the thing about this is, while in the old days that all made sense because the typical form of marketing had to happen in a long process, because prior to the pre-internet era, everything had to happen with a longer process point because we were using things like billboards and magazines and newspapers that weren't regularly seen. But now in this generation, we're able to gather that information so quickly that people actually can make a decision really quickly. We no longer have to be like catching people before they even know they have the problem. We can totally change that now. It's no longer, hey, I'm meeting someone who's not problem aware and moving them through the awareness levels to get them to a state of awareness. It's now that we can support people who are already in an active state of decision making. What we can use in order to achieve this is what I call mirrored decision making. It's tailoring your message and therefore your marketing to understanding how people naturally make decisions in a digital era. We're no longer meeting people at a state of awareness where they're unaware of the problem. We're meeting people now who have done the research, who have had enough time to listen to podcasts or go onto Google and search the problems that they're having. Now, when they're ready, they want to take action. So what we want to be able to do is realize that we want to meet people who are in an active state of ready to purchase. That means that we no longer have to fill the need of trying to educate them along the way. We get to swoop in and be the knight in shining armor. The best way I explain this is using what I call the dentist story. Now, imagine for a second that you're brand new into a city and you need to find a dentist. There's two types of people. Person number one is looking for a dentist for their regular checkups. So they take their time, they look around, they come up to a dentist who has some great information and they hang out for a bit. Now, person number two moved into the city and they're in pain. Their tooth is really hurting. So they need a solution and they need that solution now. That person number two is what we call a high intent lead. A high intent lead has a reason for wanting to solve their problem right now. That first person is a low intent lead. Now, the problem is most of your marketing is tailored to the low intent lead and means you're only attracting more of that. Inadvertently, you're repelling your high intent lead. So instead, what we want to be able to do is understand that in order to attract clients who are ready to purchase, to take action, we want to speak to the high intent lead who wants to make decisions and can do so within hours of meeting you. So how do we rectify this gap between how marketing has been done for ages and this new shift in marketing, knowing that there's people who are ready to make decision at any given point? We leverage the mirror decision making. What we do is we understand that when we speak to those high intent leads who are already in a state of motion, the information they need to make a decision looks different. We're no longer forcing them. We're no longer trying to talk them into why they should hire a dentist and why you're the right dentist for them. They're saying, I need a dentist. So we're starting at a different entry point and a different awareness level. So we want to make sure that we're speaking to them at a state where they're preemptively making decisions. It means that we only have to answer 4 questions that move them into an active state of actually being able to make a decision. The first question is, how does this work? Any given point, our psychological process is to understand how something works before we decide whether or not that thing is worth our time. Question number 2 is, how does this compare to other solutions? We always automatically look for comparisons. That's how our brain knows how to make safe decisions. Number 3 is, will this work for me? Because guess what? Just because they're given information about how something works, they have to be able to really process whether or not that will work for them. And number 4 is, how do I actually get this solution? When we craft a process and a content marketing strategy that actually allows people to move through those questions, we no longer need 20 touch points. We no longer need to spend all of our time educating people. Instead, we can move people from just meeting you into actually buying from you within hours because we can solidify those questions that they naturally go through when they make a decision. We do this through that decision-making pathway, which leads me to the next point where we're going to talk about how to actually develop the intent and a real deep understanding behind the message so that you no longer have to cut through the noise to try and generate those leads and move them through that decision map. So knowing and understanding everything we've spoken about up until this point, we've talked about that chasing attention isn't what we want. We've talked about how when we're speaking to high intent leads, it's a totally different way of doing things. Now, our goal is that your content and your message is actually going to generate leads and conversions in your business, and we're no longer optimizing for the wrong people and the wrong action, which used to be attention. Now, I want to start this by sharing a story about one of my favorite movies back in the day called Dangerous Minds. Now, there's this one scene where Michelle Pfeiffer stands in front of her classroom, and the classroom has been rowdy and they're frustrated and they're notorious for not listening. Now, she's gotten them to be completely quiet and she starts to read a poem and she's asking the classroom for feedback. The entire classroom goes totally quiet. Now, while she keeps repeating the question and trying to gain attention and getting them to buy into what she's saying, she takes a quick step back. And she comes back with a really profound speech about choices. What she does effectively in that speech is that she connects how the choices that they're making actually produces the result that they want. In doing so, she creates buy-in from these students. So not only are they now paying attention, they're actually taking action, and it creates a complete trajectory change within the story. She was able to disrupt their thoughts and gain their attention, but she was able to connect that to the action she wanted them to be able to take. And this is exactly what I'm going to talk about when it comes to creating a profound and resonant message. Not only stops people in their tracks so that they start paying attention, but actually gets them to start taking preemptive action and buy-in. What we're doing in this social media age is that a lot of people are optimizing their message for that attention, which means that maybe they're getting some love. Maybe people are walking away thinking that was some great information because maybe they've disrupted their thought pattern. The problem is we don't want to just disrupt their thought pattern and give them momentary relief. We want them to think so deeply about the thing we're saying that they stay up at night thinking about it and processing it and looking at what that would look like for them. Because otherwise they're moving on to the next best thing. So how do we shift into this, and how do we get people actually jumping on the app and looking for your name and diligently showing up to your lives and your podcast episodes, looking for your emails like your Santa Claus on Christmas morning? You create deep resonance where you become the celebrity that people are fangirling or fanguying over. It's what I call diamond cut messaging. So the first thing you need to be able to do in order to achieve this is disrupt their current thought patterns. It's getting them to stop in their tracks and start thinking. Now, we see this a lot. There's a lot of people who leverage controversial content and really shouting things out. But again, our goal is never attention, and that's short-lived. What we want to be able to do is quit the trend-setting way of disruption and leverage disruption that attaches to actual action. So what we want to be able to do here is not only create the disruption, but shift a perspective that moves into action. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you're a business coach and your goal is to teach people how to get their offers to sell off the shelf. That's not a new concept. Everyone talks about it. But for a really long time, your audience has believed and been taught that in order to successfully sell an offer, they have to have a sales page. It's the only way to do things. Now, the problem is what you're trying to do is come in and drop a truth bomb. You've created something innovative that changes the game, creates higher conversions, and gets people to be able to scale their business without sales pages and people dropping off. What you want to do is teach them how they replace that sales page altogether with personalized video letters. Now, you can totally jump in and say, here's why your sales page sucks and what you need to do instead. Sure, you've disrupted their thought pattern. You've got them to think about something else. Now, why doesn't the truth bomb affect long-term and getting people to take action? Because the truth bomb effect only works when we attach this to proof. So let me explain. Right now, you've given them a great thought, a thing that really shifted the way they thought and shook things up. But it's still just an idea that's floating around in their head. It sounds really good in the moment, but as soon as they're off the app and they've moved on, they've lost sight of that because it didn't really ground into anything. But let's say instead now we ground that into proof that helps them see that for themselves and how that's actually what's been missing for them. That now allows them to not only to have an idea and gain their attention, but actually moves them into a state of action. Let me explain to you how this works. Using the same example as we did before, if we shift the perspective around those sales page using personalized video letters, and we give proof to it by saying that, by sharing with them how people actually retain visual information at a 5 times higher rate than they do when they're reading something. Giving that information and creating proof around it allows your audience to take the idea you've given them and create a sturdy factual-based evidence behind it that allows them to see it as an actual solution. This is the power behind how we actually move people into action versus simply getting them excited about something. And this is exactly why my Easy Yes method is absolutely revolutionizing how business is done. There's 3 core factors to how we gain success in this. Number 1 is we have to be innovators. We can no longer simply sound like everybody else. We have to be able to disrupt how things are done. And we do this by creating a proprietary methodology. This allows you to break out of a state of constant competition and out of a noisy and saturated market and into a state of being able to create inbound demand because you've solved a problem in a way that nobody else can. This means that you're creating an innovative solution to an evergreen problem. When we're able to do this, we're now creating inbound demand because there's nobody else out there like that does what you do. This step alone allows you to 5 to 10x your prices and have clients who are lining up to work with you. Step 2 is being able to give people a way to make those decisions. Talking about mirror decision making, we want to leverage how people naturally make decisions, and we can do this in our sales process. Knowing that high intent clients make decisions quickly means that we need a marketing pathway and a sales pathway that actually gets people to make decisions quickly. The bingeable authority system does just that, uses the Netflix effect of how people can fall in love really quickly with bingeable content that leverages that mirror decision making process so that they come out the other end completely selling themselves and hopping on your calendar or in your inbox saying that they've already know that they want to work with you and they're wondering what the next step is. Step 3 is results and retention. Here's the deal. Successful, sustainable businesses aren't built on offers that can't deliver. Now, as much as we want to talk about sexy and irresistible offers, the ability to be able to deliver upon that result that you're promising is more important than you simply having a lot of bonuses and features and benefits. So what we do is we look at how we can create what we call consistent results mechanisms within your offer so that you can deliver the promise that you've created at scale to your clients so that they're screaming from the rooftops talking about how amazing you are and you're able to retain those clients long term. If you want to learn more about how this Easy Yes method has worked for over 400 of my clients to be able to create rapid results and be able to take them to change the entire trajectory of their business as leaders in their industry, I want to share 2 different ways you can gain more information. Number one, you can see the link down below where we share a link to our Bingeable Authority system. This is my mini series where I break down the EZS system in full detail, showing you exactly how this works and how my clients have gained success. Option number two is if you want to jump to the front of the line, you want to be able to actually move your business in the right direction without wasting all of your time on more content and showing up in all the places. I want to invite you to book a blueprint call. A blueprint call happens with me directly. We'll sit down, we'll look at your current process. I'll identify for you what's not working and what is working and how to be able to build upon that to be able to create a scalable system that not only brings you in the right clients, but brings you clients who are shouting from the rooftops ready to work with you. You can go ahead and book that blueprint call down below. And until next time, thank you for joining us on this episode of Business Real Talk.